For this video, I'll run through the test results of a chatbot model and see if any fixes or improvements in performance are needed. I'm using a model I've built in Microsoft LUIS NLP provider, and it's just a very simple model based on banking questions, which everybody should be familiar with. It has 43 intents and includes intents on mortgage application process, bank balances, applying for loans, and mobile banking, among others, and also includes some greeting intents like hello, goodbye, and small talk intents like the weather and jokes. I'm at a stage in the build where I'm ready to optimize the training data using chatbots, which will maximize the performance of my chatbot. So I need to download the file in JSON format for LUIS, and then I can go to chatbots and create my first test. So I need to click on Create Test, and then I'm going to set this up as a new project. So I click on Add New Project, name my project, LUIS Banking Bot, name my test, Initial Test, and then down here I can upload my JSON file that I've just downloaded from LUIS. If you do have a direct connection already set up to your NLP provider, you can actually use that facility there. And then all I need to do is check to make sure it's running on LUIS, which it is. chatbots knows because I've downloaded a LUIS file that it's running through LUIS. And then I just need to click on Create Test. chatbots will tell me how long this test will take, and I can cancel the test at any time by clicking here. This took about 2 minutes, and here are the results of the test. The three metrics are 63% for correctness, so this is a measure of how often the model returns the correct intent. And then 58% for confidence, which is a measure of how confident the model was at returning that correct intent. And then 71% for clarity. So clarity is a measure of how sure your model is that the top intent is the right intent. chatbots has classed them as okay, so there's a great deal of room for improvement. On the right, you can see the score distribution graph. As well as the overall metrics for correctness, confidence and clarity, chatbots also gives these metrics for individual intents. And the graph shows the distribution of each intent by bracket of score, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, etc. So for our model, there are a few intents marked in red, so this is indicating that correctness is very low, and quite a few intents in amber and some in green. And you can also click on the confidence and the clarity tabs to see those distributions as well. So on the confidence graph, we can see a lot more red intents here, indicating low confidence. And on the clarity graph, we can see quite a few in green, indicating good clarity. Ideally, all intents should be more at this end of the graph, in green, meaning their metrics are more than 80%. There's also one warning given here, and looking into this, chatbots is informing me I have one intent that has less than 5 training phrases or utterances associated with it. This will need to be fixed at some point in my improvement process. Next, I'll go to the Intents tab. Here you can see the full list of intents for my model, and they're ordered by correctness score, with the lowest correctness score intent at the top. Now, it may seem a little daunting to see many red and amber intents and with very low scores. However, just start by concentrating on the lowest scoring intent for correctness. Try to make improvements to that one before moving on to the next lowest scoring intent for correctness. Once correctness scores have been improved, you should then look to see lower scoring confidence and clarity intents and try to improve those ones too. But always start with improving correctness, because once correctness increases, generally the confidence and the clarity scores follow suit. So let's look at the intent at the top of the list, which is my branch opening times. This intent covers what times a user's local or nearest bank branch opens and closes, etc. The individual intent scores are 37% for correctness, 39% for confidence, and only 1% for clarity. There's 11 utterances in this intent, and from the correctness distribution diagram, we can see there are 5 incorrect utterances, and they're shown as red dots here on the diagram. Ideally, all utterances should be in green and well within the centre circle, as this represents my branch opening times intent. This dotted line represents my confidence threshold, and this can be adjusted here to match your own confidence threshold. The circles in grey indicate confused areas. Now, you might wonder why these utterances are incorrect when in fact they do exist in your model under the correct intent as training data. But the way the testing works is that the utterance is tested against the whole model based on being trained without that particular utterance. This is similar to the leave one out testing. If the utterance then returns an unexpected intent, this indicates weaknesses, such as weak concepts within the intent, and is then likely to cause confusion within the model. There's also 3 utterances that have low confidence, so they're outside of my confidence threshold circle. And we can also see this on the confidence distribution diagram. And if we go to the clarity diagram, we can see 5 utterances with bad clarity, but it looks like these are my incorrect utterances anyway that need to be fixed. And we have 3 utterances that have low clarity, so in other words, less than 30% difference between the correct intent, branch opening times, and the next highest predicted intent. And we can see here, for this one, there's only 3% difference between the correct intent and the next highest predicted intent, which is my local branch location. And for this utterance, again, there's 3% difference to the next highest predicted intent. And this one is my sentiment bad intent. And for the last one, there's 27% difference to the next highest predicted intent, which again is the local branch location intent. For now, we'll attempt to fix the 5 incorrect utterances. So let's go back to the correctness distribution graph. You may find in your own model that you have quite a lot of incorrect utterances that need to be fixed. We do recommend you try to fix just 2 or 3 at a time if that is the case, and then testing again in QBox to validate those fixes and ensure no regression elsewhere in the model, which we'll take a look at later, and then move on to fix the next 2 or 3 utterances in the same intent. So that's what we're going to do here. I'll try to fix these 3 incorrect ones first. So let's pin these. We can see from the correctness distribution graph that all 3 incorrect utterances are getting confused with my local branch location intent. So this intent covers questions on users asking where their nearest bank branch is. Let's get a deeper analysis by clicking into the first utterance. So this is, what time will my nearest branch close? We know from the graph that it's getting confused with the local branch location intent, and it's 77% confident at this incorrect prediction. The correct intent is the second highest prediction, and it's only 6% confident. Now you can see from the colour-coded highlights that the model has picked up nearest and branch from the incorrect intent, and there's also some insignificant words being picked up too, like what and my. From first impression, perhaps the phrase nearest branch is being represented multiple times in the incorrect intent, and I can see it's only represented once in the correct intent. So I suspect that's the reason for this incorrect prediction. By looking at these highlighted words, it gives a good indication of why there's confusion here. But to get a deeper analysis, we should use the explain feature. And I've already hit the perform deep analysis button just for speed. This shows a chart with each word in the utterance and how much influence, either negatively or positively, that word has on the prediction. So this confirms the main words influencing the utterance to return the incorrect local branch location intent are nearest and branch, as they're shown in green, meaning they're having a strong influence on the prediction. But those two words are not the only two important words in this utterance. The concept of this utterance is asking the time the nearest branch closes. So the most important words are time, nearest, branch, and close. Time and branch are having very small influences to the correct intent, but nearest and close are showing in red. So these words are negatively influencing the correct prediction, meaning they're weak words in this intent. Going back to the training data tab, we can see no other utterances containing the concept of asking the time the nearest branch closes. So this is regarded as a weak concept. We can hopefully rectify this by adding some more utterances. We recommend for each concept within an intent, there should be around 3 utterances. So let's go back to the LUIS model and pick up the right intent. And then we can add want to know the time our nearest bank branch will close. And another one, give me the time my nearest branch is going to close. Let's look at the second incorrect utterance. When does my local branch open? So this is 47% confident of this incorrect intent prediction, and the correct intent, in second place again, is 14% confident. The highlighted words show that possibly local and definitely branch are probably the influences to that incorrect intent. But again, let's see what the explain feature shows. So the biggest influences to the incorrect intent are actually when, my, local and branch. The concept of this utterance is asking when the local branch opens. When and local are negative influences to my correct intent. So these words are weak. Branch and open are having positive influences. Going back to the training data tab, there's only one other utterance with local branch and open in it, and one with branch and open. But no others asking when. We might be able to get away with just adding one more utterance for this concept. So let's go back to my LUIS model and let's try tell me when my local branch will open. Let's look at the third incorrect utterance. Will my branch be shut on bank holidays? This one's 77% confident at this incorrect intent, with the correct one being 4% confident in second place. The highlighted words indicate that bank as well as branch could be the reason for the incorrect prediction, but again, let's get this confirmed by going to explain. So we can see branch, shut and bank are the biggest influencers. The concept of this one is asking about whether they will be shut on bank holidays. Shut is quite a negative influence to the correct intent, and the others are pretty negligible. Going back to the training data tab, there's no other utterances with this concept, so we should add 2 more to strengthen that. So let's go back to LUIS again, and we can add, are banks shut on bank holidays? And one more, is our branch shut on bank holidays? Okay, going back to QBox, I've also just spotted one piece of training data here. When will my local branch shut? That really doesn't fit in this intent and should be moved to my branch opening times 1. Looks like this was just simple human error and it can easily be fixed. but it can be quite difficult to pick up on such errors without a tool like QBox. So we'll also move this errant one to the correct intent. Hopefully, we fixed those 3 incorrect utterances, and then we'll need to look at fixing these last 2 incorrect utterances. But before doing that, I'll run another test in QBox to see how my attempt at fixing these 3 have fared. So I downloaded a fresh JSON file from LUIS following the changes I made and created a new test in QBox within the same project. Again, this took a couple of minutes to run and we can see the results here. Overall correctness and confidence have increased by 1% and clarity by 2%, so it's all going in the right direction. QBox automatically compares this test with the last test run within my project, but you can of course change this comparison and compare against any test within any of your projects here. So we can see that just by fixing a few utterances, we've already made some really good progress in improving overall model metrics. And then further down, we see the largest direct changes. This list will include any intents whose scores have changed, likely because of a direct change to their training data. And of course, the intent that I've tried fixing, my bronchopeningtimes intent, is in this list, as well as the intent that we moved a wrongly placed utterance in. And I've made some good improvements to both metrics, so great news here. There are a few indirect or unknown changes too, so this list will include intents with the largest score changes, both good and bad, whose training data has not changed. And we will see further details of these and any others that might have changed too by going to the Change Analysis tab later on. But first, we'll need to just check on the bronchopeningtimes intent to see if the changes we made have been successful. So if I go into this, the pinned questions will still be pinned, and we can see that these have now been fixed and have either okay or good confidence. And looking at the correctness distribution diagram, we can see we just have those 2 last utterances to fix. 2 of those pinned utterances could have some improvement made to their confidence, as they're currently falling just outside my confidence threshold circle. But for now, the priority is to get all my utterances for this intent correct, so all of them made green. Next in my validation process is to check to see what the changes I made have had on the model overall. So I need to go back to the overview page and then into the change analysis. This graph shows at a glance whether we've had any increases or decreases in correctness to any of our intents compared to the first test. The white dots represent the metric in the previous test, and the red and green represent the metric now. So as well as the intents that we fixed, shown here and here, we've actually increased the correctness in 3 other intents that we've not even touched. This demonstrates that by strengthening concepts within one intent, it's quite likely to define more clearly other intents that perhaps were a bit confused before. We do have 1 red dot here, so this means we've had some decreases or regression in correctness scores for this one. If I scroll down, I can see the full list of intents that have had metric changes, and we can see the regressed intent score here. But there's also some really good improvements to correctness scores for these ones. You can also click on the confidence graph to see any improvements or regressions in this metric too. And I can see we have quite a few red ones here. But looking at the list, I can see them here. So some I would class as not significant. So if the regression is 5% or less, I wouldn't be too worried about this. And don't be too concerned if you find you have some or lots of regressions while trying to fix an intent. It's all part of the improvement process. And then we can go to the clarity graph. So we can see a few in green here representing increases in clarity and just one in red, although it doesn't look too significant. And looking at the list, yep, it's only -1%. If you have any intent with more than 5% regression from the first test, I would recommend trying to fix that regression before continuing in the improvement process. But for me, I've got no serious regression from this second test, and I can now move on to fix those last 2 utterances from the same intent I was working on. So let's go back to my branch opening times and pin these last 2 incorrect utterances. The first one, give me the closing time of my nearest branch. So this is getting confused with the same intent as before, the local branch location, and it's 27% confident, with my correct intent in second place at 9%. From the highlighted words, it looks like the reason is nearest and branch being strongly represented in this incorrect intent. And going on to explain, yep, this confirms this, as we can see by the longer green bars. Incidentally, sometimes you also have to look at the insignificant words to see if they're being too strongly represented in any intents. So the word my is slightly strong in this intent, but I don't think this is causing problems. If the green bar was longer for any of the insignificant words, it's a good idea to try and trim them down so that they don't cause issues with any other intents. So the concept for this utterance is nearest branch closing times. Closing and nearest are quite weak in the correct intent, and time is not particularly strong either. It's only a short bar here. And in the training data, there's nothing else representing that concept. So again, I need to add 2 more utterances to strengthen this concept. But before I do this in my LUIS model, I'm now going to show you another useful feature in QBox, which is the Experiment tab. Now, once I've established what the issue is with an incorrect utterance, I can run a quick analysis by adding any new utterances here, clicking on Update Analysis, and this will show me what the potential impact these changes may have on the scores for this intent. I also have the option of editing or even deleting existing utterances and running a quick analysis again. So let's use this quick analysis feature. I'm going to add a couple of utterances. I need my nearest branch closing time. And what is the closing time of our nearest bank? Once the analysis is complete, I'll get the results here. The analysis took a minute or so, and I can see the potential new metrics for the intent here. So we can see some good increases to all 3 metrics, correctness, confidence, and clarity. And my new utterances, which are here, they would potentially be correct and with reasonably good confidence and clarity. And then I can see my full list of existing utterances here. And the original utterance, this one here, this one is now classed as correct and with good confidence and clarity. I can also see the impact of the other utterances too, and we've got some good and some bad. When I'm happy with those changes, I can then add them for real in my LUIS model by clicking here and copying each one to the clipboard and putting them into LUIS. I would then need to run a full test in QBox to see not only the impact of this intent, but the other intents within the model. If I'm struggling to come up with additional utterances, I can also use the Suggest feature here. So I would simply click on the Load Suggestions button. I'd wait for this to complete, which shouldn't take long. And then I can tick any suggestions that I want to add to my quick analysis, and I can run another quick analysis. I can also load more suggestions, and I can repeat the quick analysis and load more suggestions as many times as I want. Let's look at the last incorrect utterance. What is the Wokingham branch operating hours? So this is 18% confident of the incorrect intent, the same one, and my correct intent is second place with 11%. So looking at the highlighted words, this indicates that branch is perhaps the influencer here. Let's go to explain, and this confirms that branch is a strong influence, and also Wokingham. So Wokingham is an entity for branch names. The concept really is about the branch operating hours, and branch and hours aren't a problem, but operating is weak here. Wokingham is also weak. However, because this is an entity, I don't want to include too many utterances with Wokingham specifically in, as they should be evenly spread across all intents that use this particular type of entity. What I need to do is strengthen the branch operating hours part of the utterance. So let's use quick analysis again, and I will add tell me the operating hours of the bank branch, and do the branch operating hours include weekends? Something slightly different there. And then I can click on update analysis and we'll see what the results are of this. Okay, that's finished, and we can see the potential new metrics still look good, and the two new utterances I've added are correct and have a good confidence and clarity. The original utterance, which is here, and that's now correct, and confidence and clarity are okay. Not particularly high, but they're okay for now. So I'm pleased with these results, and I can now copy them all over to my LUIS model. I'll still need to run a full test to validate those fixes for real and to see the impact on the rest of the model. So let's do that. Okay, I downloaded a fresh JSON file from LUIS, ran a new test in QBox, and here's the results. Correctness has increased by another 1%, but confidence and clarity remain the same. That's fine, there's no decreases, so although it's only a small improvement, it's still an improvement nonetheless. And we can see the intent that we tried to fix, my branch opening times, has increased in all three metrics again. Over on the right, I can see some score regressions here in intents, and we will look at those later. Let's take a closer look at the branch opening times intent. So the pinned questions are now correct and with fairly good confidence and clarity. Down on the correctness distribution graph, all utterances are now in green, so correctness has been fixed for all of these. Confidence and clarity could have some improvements later on in the improvement process, but for now we can say this intent has been fixed. We do have some false positives shown for this intent, so this is where utterances from another intent are getting confused with this one. These will need to be fixed at some point, but will likely to be done in the natural course of making gradual improvements, simply by working our way through the lowest scoring intents for correctness, just like we're doing now. And then once the false positives have been dealt with, the correctness score for this intent should then increase to the maximum 100%. Last thing we need to do is go to the Change Analysis tab to check on those regressions. So we have one intent that has significant regression to its correctness, and it's my local branch intent, and we can see from the list that there's a 15% decrease. So yeah, that is quite a significant decrease. On confidence tab, we have 3 intents in red, but the regression is only 1% on all of those. And for clarity, there's a few minor regressions and one significant one. And if I look at the list, again, it's a local branch intent. So my next step in the improvement process is to fix this regressed intent because the regression is quite significant. And then once that's done, I can go back to my list of intents and go to the next lowest scoring intent for correctness and make those fixes. As you can see, by working your way methodically through the worst scoring intents, fixing them, testing in QBox, addressing any regression and further testing, you will gradually improve the overall correctness, confidence and clarity, and your model will become more accurate, stable and effective. I hope this gives you some helpful insight into how to improve your model.